So for those of you who haven't heard of MoPub or are not familiar with what we do exactly, we are a Twitter company, very popular in the app ecosystem for monetization of mobile apps. So publishers typically use us. We have an open source SDK, and they plug into it for usually three different things. One is to serve ads, like direct ads, cross-promote to their other apps via our ad server. Also, use our SDK for network mediation and for MoPub's marketplace. So I'm Diana Boiteux. I am head of business development for EMEA, and my team is based out of London. We help consult app publishers on how to effectively use app placements as a means of monetizing their user base and increase ad ARPDAU. So, once upon a time, it used to be so simple for game developers. Build a great game, plug in an ad network, and see ad revenue soar. But times have changed, and it's evolved. So you can sell your ad space directly to advertisers. You can cross-promote your apps. You can work with dozens of networks. You can plug into a real-time bidding exchange, such as MoPub. And now enter header bidders. So this header bidder concept has basically entered the industry and has been more and more popular over the last couple of years, but it has really evolved from the desktop space. It just hasn't quite come to fruition in-app. So by another show of hands, please, who here has implemented a header bidding solution of some type? Not on desktop either. So it is, again, a concept that has carried over from desktop. It was an advancement in supply monetization, bringing value to the buyer through access and value to the publisher through yield. So the origins of it are really, again, born out of desktop monetization. And it was for website publishers who wanted to create more fair competition in DFP, or double-click for publishers. Because at the time, DFP, which is a Google-owned company, seemed to skew towards Google demand, and thus a hack was born to enable more fair competition. Basically, it was when I say hack, it was created by publishers creating dozens and dozens of line items to access a real-time price from the buyer. So of these desktop publishers, 70% have implemented header bidding, and they've seen great results. So it's no wonder it's become a more and more increasing topic in-app, and its popularity continues to grow, because who would not like to see an increase of 30 to 40% for their CPM? So before I get into what we envision the next chapter to be, I'd like to review where the industry is currently at. And many folks, ad ops especially, in this room will be familiar with the concept. The waterfall. So first, for in-app inventory selling, most publishers have some sort of waterfall mechanism. It's just traditionally like where the industry has been at. And it's either been built by publishers in-house or they use a third-party mediation layer. And it's structured where the network who's been paying you the most gets prioritized at the top, and historically the network that has paid you the least is at the bottom. So even if the price floors are being updated in real time or optimized or auto-optimized, the data is still historical, and that demand source or that network gets called in that priority because it's not quite real-time when you're doing a waterfall, even if it's updated very often, like a few hours, a few days, or up to a week. And yes, so the historical price is usually accepted as the highest price, or at least that network or demand source gets that look. So this is where we're at currently. And the winner is based on a comparison of networks' historical prices and if a DSP is involved. So DSP would have to be via an exchange or someone that is providing real-time bidding and real-time pricing. Basically, the ad request goes from priority 1 all the way down, and if there's no ad being filled, it will continue down the waterfall until an ad is filled. Again, it's stacked rank by the best performing demand, and it promotes, so this is actually where we want to move towards. So we want to move away from the current operating model and move towards a more real-time, or what advanced bidding, MOPUB is calling advanced bidding model, where the waterfall is minimized, or at least not used as heavily, and networks, so SDK networks that I've mentioned earlier, will provide a real-time price along with the exchange, and they all compete in one parallel auction, one unified auction. However, the industry is not quite there yet, even though there's a lot of hype and everyone is building something. It's really still in early stages. And we've heard feedback from publishers. You may have some of the same questions. What if the networks you work with can't bid in real time yet? Maybe the networks aren't ready to move from a CPI to a CPM model, or they don't want to move from a CPM, like average CPM, to a per impression CPM model. So MOPUB has, fielded all these questions and come up with what we think is a good answer and solution to it. Even though the networks and the industry as a whole is not quite there yet, it's definitely moving in that direction, like I've said. And we envision networks and programmatic buyers to have an equal opportunity for every single impression on a per impression basis. And this allows for full transparency on both the buy and sell side. So the likely reality in the near term is something of the sort, where you have a advanced bidding priority, essentially, and it can be prioritized at any level, at least in our stack, in MOPUB stack, which includes header bidding or advanced bidding, with the networks that actually can bid in real time, and the exchanges that participate, and then a waterfall afterwards. Because really, until the networks are fully bidders and plugging into solutions, header bidding solutions, the waterfall isn't going away that quickly, unfortunately. So there's a lot of names for header bidding. It's just probably quite confusing. I'm confused when I try to look at other players in the space building it. MOPUB's calling it advanced bidding, because header bidding just doesn't really make sense for an in-app environment. There's no header like there is on a website. And it is an advancement of what MOPUB has always done, because we have an in-app exchange, and we're just advancing the bidding to the rest of the ecosystem, and we want networks to be on board. So we think 3 things must be included in whatever solution you choose, in whichever header bidding platform you adopt. And so one is it should be fully supported by the publisher's ad server or mediation platform, because when the ad server is in charge of every single impression, it can make the most of each auction and effectively maximize all available ad sources, not just ones that are prioritized. However, you can still prioritize networks and whichever deals you want to cut. We also don't believe that hacking a system will facilitate advanced bidding by creating, like some solutions, and what has been historically done on desktop is to create line items at 5-cent increments and ping every demand source multiple times. We see that happen often today, and there's some problems associated with that. It can cause latency, reporting issues. When you're kind of hacking into a system, it isn't always the best outcome. When it's fully supported by the ad server, it simplifies the setup as well for ad ops folks, and reduces the time that you have to put into day-to-day operations. So we want networks to participate in bidding. SDK networks such as Facebook, AdColony, Tapjoy, AppLove, and etc. They represent 60, 70, 80% oftentimes of a publisher's revenue, ads revenue, and we need those SDK networks to be able to participate in this so that you guys can all continue to optimize and increase your bottom line. If we were not to allow the SDK networks to bid, I mean, obviously revenue would decrease, and we definitely don't want that for the publishers. We also believe that you must allow demand sources and networks to preserve the ad format innovation using the rich native platforms of devices. So obviously things are just continuing to advance. Amazing games and apps have been built in iOS and Android environments. We don't want that to go away. Clearly, there's advancements in AR and VR, and formats like native ads, rewarded video, playables, all of the rich formats and that actually add to user experience or complement in-app purchases, we want to be able to keep. And typically, those are driven by SDK networks. So, probably wondering, how does this all work? So first, the publisher sends an ad request to MoPub's platform when it's time to show an ad. MoPub's advanced bidding runs a unified auction amongst our network bidders and DSPs and evaluates all the bids in real time and picks the highest bidder. So again, it's for us called advanced bidding because it's just an advancement of what we've already built and something that MoPub has been doing for years. But now we are getting the networks on board, happily so. So they will all compete in real time. The highest bidder is then selected, and that bidder will show the ad content or their campaign in real time to the publisher. So if it's via MoPub's SDK, meaning one of our demand sources or DSPs, MoPub's SDK will render. If it's a network that wins, Facebook, for example, then their SDK will render the ad. Yes. And it allows for maximum creative expression. Any questions? Kind of ran through that pretty quickly.
Hi. Which of the major networks support header bidding right now?
In general, or with MoPub?
Both.
We know Facebook. MoPub is working really closely with Facebook to build in-app bidding. That's something actively being worked on, in alpha moving to beta. Ad Colony and a few others are also. I don't know if I'm at liberty to say all of the ones that actually are. It's for them to announce, but it's definitely being worked on. And yeah, it continues to improve.
For the advanced bidding, how are the networks being calculated in terms of the CPMs that they're giving? Because the DSPs are doing it in real time, and ad networks historically, you take the historical spend that they had over the past few days. How are you determining what is the price that they're doing?
So it's still a second price auction for a marketplace, and it's a first price auction for networks, I believe.
So how is that different from what MoPub was doing before?
Well, networks weren't able to necessarily bid per impression. We wouldn't see a real-time price being delivered back to us. There was no way for us to get that particular revenue data per impression.
So now they're using a bidder to send you their soft price?
The networks, basically, to be plugged into this solution, have to build a bidding mechanism, which has not historically been the case.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Diana.
Thank you all.